Welcome to my kitchen.
All right,
So
thank you for joining us.
the reason I chose this, I thought it would, can you see me?
Yeah, we're good. All over to you,
What's
Chef
happening?
Pola.
Okay, awesome. Welcome to my kitchen. I have to say the reason I chose this recipe because I thought it would be easy to get the ingredients. I know it's kind of weird out there right now to get all the things you need, but you know, polenta for Italians, not that I'm Italian, is kind of a staple, or cornmeal. But anyways, in future, if you're looking for a Persia market, might also be a place to go to. They have a lot of that kind of ethnic specialty, whatever, even though this is a staple in a lot of people's homes. But so the polenta pizza is a quick way of kind of creating a pizza pie, a little bit different than typical pizza, just because you're using cornmeal. And the other beauty of that is there are people that are trying to do gluten-free, so this would be an option for them. So really it's just a base of your cornmeal or polenta, and we bake it slightly, and then we add all our toppings on after and kind of like rebake it, so just to finish it. So I'll just quickly kind of show you. I think you got the recipe, so you know most of the ingredients. Here they are. We've got sauteed. Now I'm going to saute them with you, but you could have done this ahead of time. It's up to you. But anyways, we're going to do it together. So there's onions, there's zucchini, there's red pepper and mushrooms. And then I've added some fresh basil on there, which we're going to add at the end. The idea is use up stuff that you have in your home. So this is great for leftovers. I cooked up fresh chorizo sausage, or chorizo, however you say it. But you could use any leftover meat if you're doing meat. You could use veg stock if you're using, we are using stock when we make the crust. Now this is my veg stock that I make, homemade. It's a little pink because I had beet in there. But you could, if you're using meat anyways, you know, standard is kind of your chicken broth for making the crust. And then just to show you, here's what I do all week. I just keep the cuttings of all my veggies, onion skins, garlic skins, ends of broccoli, red pepper, all the bits that you chop all week long. Then you can steep them and cool them off. I usually throw in a couple extra peppercorns, some salt, maybe some herbs, a bay leaf, and then just simmer it for 20 minutes. Let it cool, strain it, and you've got jars of like your own veggie stock. You can use it in just about anything. Like Morgan adds it in ramen. We use it in soups and all kinds of stuff, sauces, right? And then I did not make my own tomato sauce. So we're just going to use the jarred one. It's organic, but some people, you know, if you prefer, you can make your own. So the idea is this is flexible. You can have meat or not. You can add more veggies, less veggies, leftovers. If you like olives or spicy something, you can add that on. So you can really play with it. It's fun. All right, so we're going to start with the actual crust, which is where the cornmeal comes in. And I've got 2 cups of cornmeal here. I'm going to turn on the stove. Is that working? I'm going to turn on the stove to kind of like a medium heat. And just put a little bit of olive oil in the pan. Probably about a tablespoon. And just let that warm up for a bit. And then have your chicken stock or your veg stock close by, because we're going to add that, and it does come together really quickly. I'm just going to get my chicken stock ready. It's about 2 cups.
I'm going to do a cup of chicken stock and then a cup of veg.
I could. In this case, we're going to mix. Morgan wants me to do a cup of veg and a cup of chicken stock. So we're trying something new, and you can do that.
No.
Okay, so the oil's just kind of getting heated in the pan. And before I add the polenta in there, I just want to show you as well, it's nice to add a little flavor in your crust. So I'm just going to use a little bit of dried oregano. and some salt and pepper in the crust as well. So you got flavor in the crust as well. Polenta. It kind of, what happens is that it starts absorbing the oils, and you're just whisking. It kind of is almost like you're toasting it a little bit, but you do want to get some heat in there. Unfortunately, our stove isn't the best, so the burners can be a little uneven at times, but hopefully your heat is even. Now I'm going to toss in a little bit of seasoning just to give the crust a bit of flavor. So I've got some dried oregano, about 2 teaspoons, a little bit of salt and pepper. Okay, so again, you're just whisking it in. It's still kind of dry. And now I'm going to add the first cup of the stock. You can hear it kind of sizzle. That's good. And it comes together pretty fast. Now I've got to turn my heat down. And I'm going to add a little bit more liquid. I changed the color with this, that's the only problem we're in. But okay. Yeah, totally change the color.
Okay, it's good.
Mine looks a little pink. Yours should be yellowish. We used a little bit of the veg stock in here. So you keep kind of whisking. It should thicken up. Yeah, it's starting to thicken up. Nice. If I was making polenta, just as a dish of polenta, I'd add some sort of creamy butter in right now. You can still do that if you want a little bit of buttery flavor in your crust. See how it's kind of coming together now and getting a little clumpy. It should feel kind of thick. How's yours going, Corey?
Mine's still a little bit watery yet.
Okay. It probably just needs more heat.
Yeah, I turned up the heat a little bit just now.
I'm going to add a little bit of butter just for cream.
Garlic butter?
I'm adding a little garlic butter, but you can add regular butter. Just that's what, you know, what you have on hand, you use what you have on hand. Okay, mine's thickened up. Good. I'm going to take it off the heat. The beauty of this is you could actually make the crust the day before and then just hold it and then finish it up the next day. If you were, you know, in a rush and you knew you were going to come home and just want to get that pizza in the oven right away, you could actually make this crust a day ahead.
So how thick is it when it's ready?
It's really like
Oh, I
porridgey.
see.
Can you
Okay.
see? It's kind of thick like porridgey. I'm showing here Morgan's up close.
I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting there.
Yep, okay. And it may just depend on the type of cornmeal you got. There are different varieties of cornmeal. Some are coarser than others, some are finer, just, you know, so that could make a difference too.
Our stove is also a little bit underpowered. I find when I put it at everybody else's settings, it's not quite hot enough.
Oh yeah, that's probably what it is.
Our stove
Our stove has a mind of its own. It just goes on and off when it feels like it. hot, it just keeps changing. It fluctuates very quickly.
Or when you need it to be hot, it goes cold.
Oh no.
Or the opposite.
Okay, mine's pretty thick now.
The rubber one? No. Oh, there it is.
How you doing over there, Rocky?
Good. I've just made that pizza dough into a pie shape and put it in the oven.
Nice.
Okay. So now that you can sort of see, it looks very doughy and thick. You can kind of see it's a bit thick.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on an oil. I've got a pan that looks like this. It's a little bit deep so that you can go a little deeper, or you could use a cookie sheet with a bit of a ledge.
Okay.
What have you got, Corey?
I've got a pizza thing here. It's only got a very little ledge, but it has a little bit of one. Is it
Okay.
gonna work? Or?
Yeah, it'll work. We'll just have to build up the edge just a slight bit, that's all.
Okay.
If you want to oil it, so put a little olive oil on there and oil it up just so that this doesn't all stick. And your oven, I should have said that at the beginning, but that's okay.
I preheated mine.
And then as soon as the oven should be on 400.
400? Okay.
Yeah. But we can get it ready in the pan and start other things. When the heat gets up to the right heat, we'll pop it in. Because it's a bit hot, you can use parchment paper to help you press it down, or a spatch. You kind of want to spread it out into like a crust and try and get a little bit of an edge on the side so that kind of like a deep dish. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just spreading it out here.
Yeah, you can see it.
And then what I do is I take a piece of parchment and I just press it down so I can kind of get my hands into it and even up the surface a bit. Should be about a ½ an inch, quarter an inch to a ½ an inch kind of in thickness. You don't want it too thick, but you don't want it too thin either. It's got to hold. Okay. How you doing there?
Almost there. Almost there. Just kind of even it out a little bit here.
Yeah, once it's even out, we can brush it with a little bit of olive oil again, just so the top gets that nice bit of a glaze, crunchy too, when it's set. If you have a brush, great. If not, you can use your fingers, but I would just, rub a little olive oil after it's spread out.
DK's joined us.
Hi. Sorry, I was
Okay.
I was waiting outside the grocery store for about an hour.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Oh, seriously?
Wow, that's a long
I
way.
went to 2 places this morning and couldn't find cornmeal.
I'm with you. I didn't find it either.
Oh, no.
So anyways, I hope I can jump in. I
Yep.
know I'm behind, but
Well, we've got the first part done, but like
We'll just
started.
go over it.
I'll just follow your instructions that you wrote in the email here and try and catch up.
Okay. Wow, I didn't think Polenta was going to be so challenging. Which store did you wait an hour at?
The IGA on 4th.
Oh,
Did they have it?
They did, yes.
Oh, okay. They didn't have it when I checked last.
yeah. Say, where was it? I went there today and couldn't find it.
It's this stuff, the Bob's Red Mill. I mean, it's golden corn flour. I hope that's the
Oh,
right.
okay. That's not cornmeal. Well, I think I needed to put more in that email. Corn flour is different than cornmeal. They call it polenta or cornmeal. You can make polenta with cornmeal, but with corn flour, it's not quite the same. It won't come together the same. But you know what? You can bake with corn flour. You can make corn muffins and things like that. It's not gonna react the same way.
Oh, I see.
Cornmeal.
Okay.
This is why we
Polenta
need
and-
cooking lessons.
Yeah. We may have to do this one again. Anyways, just so you know, it's the darker, let's see, I'll show her from,
What are you guys using then?
we're using cornmeal, which is, it's not corn flour. If you can see this, it's a meal, and they call it polenta or cornmeal. So often it's used
Oh, okay.
to make polenta, or in this case, the polenta pizza pie.
So
It's grainier, it's coarser, it's not a flour. They would have milled it further to get the flour. And
Okay. Okay.
I mean, there's probably a way someone could make a pizza with corn flour. It's just not going to come together real quick like this does. That's why.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Sort of
So what
pizza pie.
do you do? Can you
Did you guys, Corey and Rocky, did you guys get cornmeal or are you using
Corey
something else?
found it,
I did.
and Rocky did not.
So I just bought some pre-made pizza dough at IGA and
All right. Well, maybe I'll just watch and then make this another time.
Yeah, watch. This is what it looks like before it goes in the oven. After we just whisked the cornmeal with a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of oregano and salt and pepper. It's very simple. And then we added the stock, and it came together like a kind of a thick, doughy cereal almost. You know, like a heavy porridge, oatmeal chex.
Awesome.
And then we pressed it in to a pan or a pie plate or whatever, and then we just brushed it with olive oil. So now we're going to go in the oven probably for about 10 minutes. And then I'll start with the other stuff that will go on top. At least you can pick it up from there next time,
Sounds
right?
good.
I think Corey's recording this, so you might be able to watch it too. So I'm gonna put it in the oven, Corey,
I recorded it, and you'll be able to follow it all. Yeah, mine's in the
and
oven.
I'm gonna set my timer for 10 minutes.
Okay.
In the oven at 400. Is your oven still getting hot?
No, it's good. I'm in.
Okay. So while that's in, we're talking about the toppings. Oops. Come on. Sorry, my oven just did something weird. There we go. There.
Don't press the self-cleaner button.
Yeah, I know. Done that once. Okay, that part's in. I'm going to talk about the toppings for just a minute here. I did caramelize onions. They look like that, but I'm going to do it with you as well because I'm guessing you didn't do that. So, and the nice thing about caramelized onions on any pizza or anything, it just adds so much flavor. But we're gonna do it together on the stovetop, and I'll show you a little trick which helps get that really nice dark sweetness and color, just to add more flavor. So I've got sauce, just a little fry pan on the stove. We're gonna put a little olive oil in there and turn the heat up. What are you doing?
Need to be tall.
The cat playing. So I sliced up a couple of small onions, just in kind of like slivers. It's called a mousse. You cut the onion in half and you sort of go down the half. It's called a mousse, but it's really just slivers. And it doesn't matter if they're big onions, small onions. It's all going to end up good. So as soon as you get your heat going in your pan, you're going to toss your slivered onions in there. This takes a little bit more time just because you want that slow caramelization to happen. You don't want it to be like burnt crisp. You want it to kind of gradually heat up. If you were using meat on your pizza, I have already cooked up some sausage, chorizo. This is a time, that you would have done that ahead of time would be the best idea. If not, sometimes you could buy cooked sausage already cooked, or you could have leftover meat in your fridge that you're just trying to use up, and that could be going on your pizza. Or some people prefer salami or pepperoni or whatever other meat. I often do this vegetarian, so I might be adding more like olives or capers or something different, sun-dried tomatoes to give it like a different vibe if I wasn't going to do the meat, and sticking with the veg stock only, not the chicken stock. But in this case, you guys are all CrossFitters, and I know you like your meat, so we're doing chorizo, and I've just already cooked it up. So
We actually have a lot of vegetarians.
oh, well, you can see both. All right, so I can hear my pan starting to sizzle. How's yours for the onions?
Do you have onions going, Rocky?
So I, because the ingredient said pre-sauteed, I got my husband to do this while I was doing the workout. So I'm done with it as well.
I sauteed mine too.
Yeah.
Okay, and fair enough. I did say that because if I would save time, but then Morgan wanted to make sure we also got everything in here and show. But there's a little trick I'm going to show you, and so it's fine. We can also, so the other veggies, while this is getting going, I'll put my other veggies on so we save some time here. The bell pepper and the zucchini, I'll just get mine sauteing on the side while we do the onions, and this is all going to happen at once. Okay. Right. You definitely want color on the onions for this. It just adds so much more flavor. I'll get my other veggies going. The red pepper I just did in little slivers also, but you could do little chunks, doesn't really matter. Same with the zucchini. I just did like little chunks, small. And same with the mushrooms. They're kind of like just little slivers. And I prefer crimini, although you could do white, shiitake, any kind of mushrooms or any mixture of. But I went with crimini. I like the flavor of crimini. It's just really got a nice texture too, very meaty. So once the onions start softening, getting a bit of color on them, I like to add a little balsamic. This one's a fig balsamic. You can get it no frills. It's one of my favorites. Great for salad dressing too, but if you add a little splash of any balsamic, it just adds to the sweetness factor and the color, and it kind of finishes it up. Like instead of wine, it's got a little bit more texture to it and flavor.
Oh, nice.
And finish your onions with a little balsamic. Now, I would let that go longer, but because you guys are already jumped on it, I'm going to use the ones I did in advance and just finish the veggies in here.
DK, that is an amazing onion chopping outfit you've got on there. Everyone look at DK.
The onions when I did them longer
Oh,
were
wait.
this color. This was the color of the onions when they were a little longer. I just pulled them. Oh my God, look at those goggles.
Oh,
Those are great.
My eyes are so pathetic. I cannot handle it.
That's awesome. I should get a pair of those. I don't think I've ever reacted quite that way.
That's
I have.
That's fabulous.
It used to not be a problem, but ever since I had eye surgery, it's like really bad.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. You don't want to overcook the vegetables that we're adding to the pizza. You just want them to get nice little texture and sweat it a bit, sauteed, not too soft, because on the pizza they're going to cook a little bit more. So I'm just giving them a quick toss. And I'm going to season them a little bit too when I'm cooking them. Crazy fryers. The other thing I did was I got fresh basil, fresh parsley, and fresh arugula. This is going to be after. I don't know if you've ever been to some of those pizza places where they add it at the end. It's so much like having a salad on your pizza, you know. So you got the melty, gooey, lovely pizza, and then you got the fresh herbs on top. It's just a nice contrast in texture and taste, and plus you're getting more nutrients when you're light, you know, like arugula is just so nice, fresh, right? Same with basil. They add that punch at the end. So that's why I'm not doing them in the pizza, but we're going to chop it up, you know, like chiffonade kind of thing, and throw it on top at the end. So I just thought I'd tell you why that was in the recipe there and not in the crust. So these veggies are almost done. And that was the timer. I don't know. I'm just going to check the crust. See, it's starting to actually bubble a little bit. I don't know if you can see that it kind of bubbles a little bit. So the 10 minutes is done on the first part. I'm going to let it cool before we add the next part. Take it out. And I'm going to leave the oven on 400 because it's going to be going back in once we assemble our pizza. We'll just let it cool to the side for a minute. Fan on. This is where if you were drinking a little wine, you'd probably put a splash of wine in your veggies just for that little extra hit. Okay. So the vegetables are softened up here, a little steamy, but you can kind of see they're not mush, but they're softened. Because we're gonna let that crust just settle for a minute, I'm gonna slice up my sausage. I don't know if you're doing meat on yours, but if you are, this will be the time you slice it up. But if it's already sliced because your husband got there and did it for you, which is awesome, just kind of assemble what you're gonna put on the pizza. Your tomato sauce, your sausage, your veggies. I'm just gonna give this a quick slice.
And we're just putting the tomato sauce on cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get reheated in there and all melted together with the cheese. The other thing on the recipe was 2 types of cheeses or 3, whatever you want. I did a cup of Parmesan fresh grated and a cup of mozzarella. One's kind of gooey melty. The other one's got that sharp edge to it, which I love, you know, fresh grated Parmesan, but we're going to do both on top. But you could use any combination of cheese that you have in your house. As long as it kind of melts, you know, it's fine. Even feta cheese actually works really nice too if you're into like the sheep's feta or the goat's feta, which has a little sharp edge. On a vegetarian one, I would definitely use like a feta with maybe some olive or something like that in there, right? I'm just cutting up the sausage. Maybe you can turn the fan off, Morgan. It's going to be noisy. And if it wasn't sausage and just like crumbled beef, that works too.
It's also really good with leftover bolognese sauce.
Yeah.
Makes for an easy dinner.
That'd be good for you.
Bolognese sauce never really gets left over in my house. We just kind of tend to go for it.
Yeah, nothing really. It's we have to stay to
Yeah.
one person in particular who's not in this kitchen. That this is for something. Don't eat it, or like put a sticky note with your name on it, which is my go-to tactic.
So, we're ready to assemble. You take your jarred sauce, or if you've made homemade, and you just kind of generously pour it over, but not, I'd say it's probably about a cup. You don't want it to be too soggy. You just want a nice base. Depending on the size of your pan, I'm thinking it's about a cup. You can always add a little bit more if you need to. You just spread it out. I don't know if you can see that. Morgan, can you see it? I'm just spreading it out just like a regular pizza topping.
Yeah, you're gonna have to see it from there.
Okay, good.
I didn't have to move it. But I didn't move
And that was about the right amount. That was perfect. So then I would go with the caramelized onions next. And where's my phone? Be generous with these. They're so good. They have so much flavor. Spread that out, then you add your veggies. Okay. How are we doing? We got all our veggies on?
Oh, I'm still spicing it, but coming to the veggies now.
Okay, no rush. We're good. Tidy up a little.
Pola, do you put the meat, the olives, and the sun-dried tomato on before the cheese or after the cheese?
Before.
Before, okay. I will put
Yeah. Yeah, so because I'm doing this chorizo, I didn't do the olives on mine with the sun-dried tomato, but I would totally do that if I wasn't doing meat. So yeah, it's kind of like right under the cheese.
Okay.
So I'm just adding my meat now. All of it. You see him? Oh, here's the other. So that's what it looks like before, and now I'm going to add the cheese last, and I'm going to do the Parmesan under the mozzarella, so it kind of, the mozzarella will hold everything down and melt it all in together. Last, mozzarella. Okay. So mine's ready to go in the oven. This is what the final looks like. It just looks like a pizza. Slightly more deep style. So I'm going to pop mine into the oven and put it on for about another, it needs about 10 minutes just to get everything to melt together.
Okay.
And then we do the last minute or so on broil just to get the bubbly top cheese thing happening. But I would put it in the middle or the lower part of your oven, not at the top.
Okay.
Usually you want the heat coming from the bottom more, so it's kind of the middle, closer to the bottom.
And we're gonna add the fresh basil after, right?
Right, we're gonna do, so yeah, while this is in the oven, we're gonna chop up some arugula, parsley, basil, and I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. But I'm gonna just set my timer here for 10 minutes so we know where we're at. So it's gonna all melt all those flavors together. Because the veggies and the sausage and everything was pre-cooked. Here, let's fix that. Well, because you were looking down at the board. Yeah, it's not going to be that long in the oven because a lot of this stuff has been pre-cooked. It's really just to marry all the flavors together and get that tomato sauce, heat it up a little bit in there with all the rest. So in the meantime, I've got fresh arugula. Let's see here. I'm just going to take like a handful. You don't have to measure. This is totally eyeball, right? Just a handful of arugula. Some fresh basil, again, it's like a little handful, you know, some things you just don't need to measure. Nice little pile. And then fresh parsley. I prefer the flat leaf parsley, but right now I've got the curly leaf parsley. My flat leaf is growing outside in the garden, so we're gonna have lots of that soon, but right now we're just using the curly one. Either works. Parsley is one of those little unsung heroes. You can't have too much parsley. First of all, it has so much vitamin K and a lot of other things. It's one of those things, you just don't get a lot of vitamin K easily. You can get it from parsley. I mean, it comes in other dark greens and seeds and stuff, but I just say you can never have enough parsley. It's so good for you and it's got great flavor. So I've got my pile. Here it is, of my greens mixed together, and I'm just going to chop it kind of in little fine little strips. You can see that. There you go. So I'm just pulling it all together. Normally when they talk about herbs, they sometimes talk about a chiffonade. It just means a very small sliver, really. So I'm just coming in, grabbing it all together, just keeping it tight for the first one. And then you can go over if you want a finer chop. But to be honest, this is on top of the pizza and it does want to so it's just a nice loose bunch of parsley and herbs all together. The basil is going to be great. Again, if you were doing a vegetarian option, you could add a little bit of fresh tomato slivers on there at the end, you know, instead of the sausage or instead of olives. If you don't like olives or you don't like sun-dried tomatoes, you could do fresh. It still works. So yeah, a nice little pile of fresh herbs to just finish with. This is when I would probably pour a glass of wine. When you're almost at the end. While we're waiting, I could also mention that I do have a website. I don't know if anybody has checked in with it, but there's other recipes up there. And I'm going to start adding more just because I really feel this time we're all in right now. A lot more people are cooking at home, doing things from scratch, just like needed, you know, something new to try. And I do have a fair amount of vegetarian recipes I've been playing with lately. Our son's vegetarian, so you know we're always coming up with new ideas for him too. But I think as time goes on, I'll be posting more on my website. So it's just chefpola.com, and Pola is spelled P-O-L-A. So if you ever have a chance, you could look there, or you could follow my Instagram page, which is Chef Pola Canada. And sometimes I'll throw up, you know, ideas there, or tips, or a little recipe, or something else, you know. And if there's something you really want to learn, you could always ask too. I might be able to do another one of these if someone said, you know, I really want to learn how to make this.
And I'll put it up in the blog
Trained
as
as
well.
a culinary chef, but I worked in catering, so my background's very, very versatile. And I'm focused on the health side. So even though I learn traditional recipes, I never stick with the recipe. I'm always changing it up to make it a little bit cleaner, a little healthier. And my motto has always been, it's all about the ingredients. So when you're out there shopping, just think about, you know, the ingredients are really important. Sometimes we need to cheap out, but there are certain things that aren't worth cheaping out on. That's my 2 cents. And, you know, and again, if you can find organic as opposed to conventional and it's not like crazy more, I still would go that route if you can.
And do you know why?
Even better. Huh?
Do you know why? They recently uncovered why.
What, the pesticides, you mean?
Well, there's that, but there's a nutritional benefit as well, but they didn't know why. Because studies showed, they tried to test for nutrients, and a lot of them showed that there's not much difference between organically grown and inorganically grown. And so that kind of debunked the nutrition piece. But now, a new study, now that people are starting to actually study the microbiome, they're finding that all the organisms that live on organic plants end up in our digestive tract and are beneficial.
We need
and
them.
the pesticides kill those off. And it's not a small difference. It's like on like a factor of 1 million kind of difference in terms of the value of eating the organic vegetables.
Yeah,
so
that's good to hear. That's really good to hear. Yeah.
So it's worthwhile.
I mean, back when, absolutely. And I mean, we've met a lot of organic farmers, and I've, you know, gone on a few buyer's missions, they're called, but it's kind of like a trade mission where they bring in someone who's looking to import, because that's one of the things we do. So some of the time when we've been out on these buyer's missions, they've actually taken us on tours of, say, a gluten-free facility or an organic farm versus, you know, traditional growing. And last summer I was in Alaska on an organic farm, and it was just unbelievable, the difference in the carrots that we tried at this farm. I mean, I just hadn't tasted anything that amazing. It was so, like, just so fresh and flavorful, and it lasts way longer as well when you get like really good fresh and organic ingredients. They seem to last and hold up longer wherever you're storing them, hopefully somewhere cool, you know. But sometimes I think when people say, oh, it makes no difference, it does. And it's not just what you've read about, but I think even you can see it in the people that I've met over the years who are sort of sticking with that. And we raised our kids on organic foods. And I think a lot of my friends at the time thought I was nuts running every Saturday to some garage in Richmond to try and buy organic veggies wholesale. You know, I went early in the morning every Saturday, and milk and stuff like that. And they all thought I was nuts. But, you know, I just committed to it a long time ago, and I can see it in my kids. They're both, you know, strong, healthy, good immune systems, bio, micro, whatever, it's functioning well, you know. So I think it's proven to me that it works. I think you have to have your own experience, actually. Yeah. Anyhow, same thing for the gut health. I think that's true too, right?
Well, they're finding it makes such a difference. And this is not an appropriate dinner conversation, but the things like the fecal transplants that they're doing now, because they can take the microbiome from a healthy person, put it in an unhealthy person, and actually turn that person healthy. You know, so I'd rather get it off my vegetables and fruits than do the
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, and you know, even if you've grown your own, like we're starting to grow more, we're planting a lot more this summer than we did last summer, but every year we seem to plant a little bit more. When you just even experience your own, growing your own, the satisfaction you get just from that, seeing it come, you know, and then tasting it and digging around in there, there's something kind of reconnecting you to your food I like that. So anyhow, I got about another half a second here before I think this. I'm
Ooh.
just gonna check, but mine's getting close to being all milky on top, and I'm probably gonna move it up. How's yours looking, Corey?
Looks
Got my
fantastic.
time. It should be all melty by now.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's mine.
Okay, I'm gonna move mine up
Oh,
to the
beautiful.
top rack or higher rack, and then I just put it on broil. But you gotta kind of hang here close when you do that because it's really easy to overdo it if you go too long. So I don't put the timer on. I just stand here and literally, watch it. Check in regularly, have a peek, because broil, depending on your oven, it can burn.
I just hope my dough's cooked through.
Oh, right. So you had, was it a pre-made pizza dough?
Yeah. I think it'll be all right. It was pretty well cooked when I took it out and topped it up.
Okay, yeah, it's probably fine. Was it already assembled into the shape, or was it?
No, I put some effort in and did that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I did discover one brand recently that I quite like for a pre-made pizza dough called, I think it's Napoli.
Okay.
And you can buy the ball frozen, or you can buy the actual crust.
Oh, okay.
Or you can buy like an actual made pizza frozen, but the ball is what is, far more affordable, and then you can do whatever you want on top. They're a local company in BC. We've seen them now at a couple of trade shows, and I really think they have a nice brand. I think it's called Napoli.
I think I've seen their
They're super
pasta
nice
as well, maybe.
What's that?
I think I've seen their pasta too, maybe.
I don't know if they do
Maybe not.
pasta. Yeah, they might. Okay, I'm taking a look. Still got about another half a minute, I think, on this broil. You want a little bit of color on that cheese, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Almost there.
Where are you up to, DK?
So I just am making pasta and putting all my pizza toppings on the pasta.
Nice.
Ooh, there's a good idea. That works.
But I'm almost done, so I'm gonna finish what you guys do.
Well, so are we. Mine looks. Time to take it out.
DK, you can still bake the cheese on top of the pasta with like all the stuff on it, and it's so good.
So here we go. I'm just going to come up and show you.
Beautiful.
That's how this turned out.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
And then, like anything, I always let it rest a minute. Like, oh, that looks good, Corey.
Yeah.
Nice.
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 Here I am.
Ooh.
All right.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm so
yeah.
envious. That looks so good.
They all look good. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So you'd want to let it rest just because you don't want it piping hot, but I'd probably give it like 5 minutes of resting. Then I'd throw on my fresh herbs, and then I'd serve it up. Just serve it up right there. Like anything, I always find you got to let something rest for a few minutes. Meat especially needs more. If we ever do another one with meat, the resting of the meat is so important. If you cook beef or chicken or anything, you can't just dive in. You got to let it sit for 10 minutes. Absolutely. Well, with this, because it's a pizza pie, probably 3 or 4 minutes is probably fine. And then you throw your veggies on fresh up and just cut it and serve it and eat up.
Wow. Thank you so
It
much.
should hold together. I'm gonna just check and see that it didn't stick to the sides. It's fine. I'll do it before the 5 minutes just so we can see what it looks like on a plate. Can we get a plate? This is my favorite plate.
Nice.
I only have one, but it's my favorite plate. Blue and white, and it's just really cheerful, right? So I'm gonna cut a piece.
It's the only one we have.
I'm just cutting it in big squares.
Yeah, DK. So if you pop it, if you like layer it like you would the pizza, and then pop it in the oven and put it on broil, you'll still get that nice like crispy cheese and melty cheese on top. But it will be in your pasta.
Cool. That's a good idea.
So there it is, and then I would just simply have it like that.
Beautiful.
See? The thing with the polenta crust too is it's a totally different texture than pizza. You want to eat it with a fork or a fork and a knife. It's not like something you're going to pick up because it doesn't have that same
Right.
at all. It's more pliable. Like, and you definitely want to eat it with a fork and knife. But it's just like a really filling meal. It's more to it than a pizza crust because the polenta is quite heavy. Like it's sustaining. It fills you up. So you don't probably eat as much of this as you would of a slice or two of pizza. You might only want one slice and you're full. Or at least I am.
That doesn't sound like me, but
I was gonna say, yeah, not you, but me. Or Stephen. Anyways, that's it. So
thank you so much. That's incredible.